I am currently live here at UMES, where just behind me there are 10 contestants, students here, that are pitching for a spot to win in this competition, the Women's of Color Incubator Pitch, so that they can end up making it to the Nationals. Things are firing off here in Cambridge at the Ice and Oyster Festival. This protective vest is one of the older vests that is going to be replaced by the new ones that are coming thanks to the city and federal funding that was approved for the Salisbury Police Department. Now, this is an example of one of the brand new vests that the department just received, specifically Chief Mindshine's. As you can see around me, the land that I am currently standing on right now is 20 acres of acquisition land by the state for one main reason, and that is preservation of the Nanticoke watershed.
We're losing that fast. Yeah, we're losing too much land, I feel.
It's been less than a month since the last off-campus shooting that happened at Salisbury University. And while there has been nothing since then, in light of the recent shootings at universities across Maryland, a lot of students are still shaken up.
I think it's terrifying hearing about the shootings in Maryland and how it could possibly happen here.
In light of recent gun violence at colleges and universities, and even just a mile away from Salisbury University's campus, students are scared that their safety is in jeopardy.
Some fears and concerns that I have is just getting a call and hearing about one of my friends being shot and hurt or possibly killed.
Abigail Szymanski is an SU senior living off campus. With the recent shooting just a mile away, she wants to know what is being done by the university to protect the students.
Even though it's off campus, it involves Salisbury University students, and I think more awareness needs to be raised, and there should be more safety guidelines that should surround and protect the students.
SU faculty want students to know that all of their concerns have been heard and are being addressed. Eli Modlin with the university's Public Affairs and Strategic Initiatives says they are taking another look at safety measures in place for students, faculty, and staff.
Our hearts go out to the students, the campus communities that have been affected by the recent violence at universities in Maryland and across the country. Just recently, our chief of police served on a group with a number of other chiefs of police around the state and at colleges of universities to share some of the best practices and exchange information on what they're seeing and how we can best keep our campus community safe.
One of the common things that SU administrators are hearing are that
our students in particular feel very safe on campus, but we also recognize that our students, our faculty, our staff live in spaces beyond the walls of campus. So we're really working with our allied law enforcement agencies to help increase the patrols around campus and in the surrounding community.
Some freshmen on campus, like Eric Marshall, have heard about the gun violence off campus, but they feel comfortable living in the dorms.
I've heard a lot about this campus being the safest part of Salisbury in general, so I haven't seen anything on campus or even too close to campus, but been aware of the dangers, but on campus I feel safe.
SU administrators told me that they've talked with police and they plan on increasing patrols when students are most active, which is typically at night on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays during the week.
In Maryland, theft of a handgun is only a misdemeanor, but lawmakers in Annapolis are looking to make it a felony offense to reduce firearm-related crimes. What this means is a potential $1,000 fine and maximum sentence of 5 years in prison on a first-time offense.
And we need greater laws on the books better protecting victims of crimes, not criminals.
Both police and lawmakers agree that handgun thefts across the state of Maryland have dramatically increased. Last year, 1,100 handguns were stolen and 40 were recovered in Salisbury during traffic stops.
We have so many of our handguns that are being stolen out of cars, not just here in Wycomico County, but across the state.
Last year, in 23, we did have 7 that were actually reported stolen, and that could be through from a vehicle theft or it could be through a residential theft.
Currently in Maryland, stealing a handgun from someone's home is a felony, but not if it is stolen out of a vehicle.
It's a car, it's not a home where you expect people to be residing and living and a potential confrontation to occur.
Law enforcement say a handgun typically retails between $400 and $600, But handgun theft is also only considered a felony if the weapon is worth more than a certain dollar amount.
That $1,500 threshold, that's what makes it a felony. And so what this legislation does is simply takes away the dollar value and says if you steal a firearm, that is a felony. A firearm shouldn't be valued by its dollar value.
While lawmakers say this legislation would help curb handgun theft, Wicomico County Sheriff Mike Lewis says proper gun ownership is the best solution to this problem.
If you're going to own a gun, be responsible, secure that weapon, make sure you keep it in the house every night, you take it at night when you leave that car.
In Salisbury, I'm Jack Fiechtner, 47 ABC, WMDT.
It was just a burden that I just feel like no one should have to bear.
House Bill 1064 is a tax credit that would exempt first responders from being taxed when their lives are lost in the line of duty. Law enforcement, firefighters, and families of first responders took to Annapolis to support the bill, including Ryan Whittington of the Ocean City Fire Department.
When we think about the death of a first responder, there are funeral costs, there is a loss of income, and the everyday requirements that a family has to meet don't stop just because their loved one has died. Death is expensive, death is stressful, the death benefit of our first responders should not be taxed.
Police say that their state and federal benefits are not taxed, but the benefits received from Wicomico County for Corporal Glenn Hilliard's family was taxed to the tune of $182,000. Wicomico County Sheriff Mike Lewis showed the department's support by joining Tashika Hilliard to testify on behalf of the bill.
And you can imagine the impact that has had on the family of Corporal Glenn Hilliard.
I had no idea that this benefit was going to be taxed. Came as a complete shock to me.
First responders and families of the fallen stood together in a unified stand of support for the legislation. They are hopeful that the bill will pass.
Our firefighters, our paramedics, and our law enforcement officers, should they be seriously injured, caned, or killed in the line of duty, that they can rest assured that their family members and the survivors will be taken care of.
I'm Jack Fiechtner, 47 ABC, WMDT.
One of the biggest things we're seeing, it seems to be all over the place.
The statewide legalization of adult use marijuana has caused the Drug Enforcement Agency to reconsider its Schedule I classification, which has been around for decades.
The downgrading of the schedules, what concerns a lot of people in law enforcement is that a lot of people are not going to say, well, if the federal government is saying it's less severe or it's less worrisome, then maybe I should go and try this.
Ocean Pines Police Chief Tim Robinson thinks some aspects of the drug are not being taken into full consideration as its usage becomes more popular.
Initially, as a Schedule I, it's showing us something with no medicinal value, something that's very addictive. Now, by it being downgraded, they're basically going to be putting on the level of Tylenol with codeine.
Maryland Congressman Andy Harris also getting involved, sending the DEA a letter. He also sent us a statement saying that the recommendation to reschedule marijuana, quote, lacks both substance and data, end quote. He focuses on three main concerns: impacts on pregnancy and children, and the effects of driving under the influence of marijuana.
I'm quite sure that a lot of people under 21 are doing marijuana. It's just probably as easy to get as underage alcohol.
And as laws around marijuana possession are changing, local police say they're also having to adjust their practices.
I've been doing this for 30 years, and 30 years ago, we were arresting people with any amounts of marijuana. I mean, now, unless you have a significant amount, you're not going to face arrest because of the recreational limits on it.
Police say they are also concerned how the potential downgrade could impact the number of marijuana-related driving violations, and police can no longer use the odor of marijuana as probable cause to search during traffic stops. They say that that was a key tool in their toolbox for big drug busts in the past. Heather Ward is behind bars tonight. The daycare worker accused of purposefully hurting an 8-month-old girl in her care while she worked at the Berlin Activities Depot. Court documents show the investigation began when the infant was treated for a broken bone. Her mother saying she was fine before being taken to daycare, but that evening started having problems, and no one notified her of an injury. That led investigators to check surveillance video from inside the depot.
That's where they say Ward was seen striking the infant multiple times, grabbing her, even pushing her face down in a crib. Ward was placed on leave, but ultimately fired. The owner and operator of the Berlin Activities Depot telling us they take these allegations very seriously.
The allegations are awful and terrible, and it's not what we promote, and it's not why we opened this business. And we are horrified that anything like this could even happen.
We're talking about the Police Accountability Act of 2022. Wicomico County Sheriff Mike Lewis and State Senator Johnny Mouts both claim it is preventing law enforcement from getting these dirt bike and ATV gangs off the streets who are redlining their vehicles and bobbing and weaving between traffic, and it is making residents on edge.
When you got an ATV doing a wheelie and then you've got a mom and her kid in the lane right next to it, it's hard to not be scared.
Residents say that these illegal off-road motorists are putting everybody in danger. Ryan Maitland says he was once almost involved in an accident with one of them.
No one's stopping them, and they're just kind of, you can tell they just do what they want.
While law enforcement wants to crack down, they say it's the law itself that's stopping them from doing so. Wicomico Sheriff Mike Lewis says officers are held liable for any injuries or deaths that may happen should they start a high-speed chase with these bikers.
Maryland lawmakers changed the rules of engagement. It would be different if they just murdered someone, then they would say, yeah, you can chase them because they're now murder suspects.
Sheriff Lewis believes this is why drivers are seeing more activity from these off-road vehicle gangs that are, quote, terrorizing residents who legally use the roadways on a daily basis. Lawmakers agree that the problem has only escalated in Wicomico County.
Disregard of the law, that's got to be addressed. There's got to be consequences. There's got to be enforcement. Unfortunately, that's not the case right now, and that's what the sheriff's talking about.
Maryland State Senator Johnny Mott says he and other lawmakers brought up concerns about the new police regulations before the law was passed, and he is doubtful there will be any amendments to the legislation.
My clear perception of what I've heard from the leaders in Annapolis is that they don't intend to change them, that they want to see them in place longer.